Well, Dan, I think the interesting thing is going on right now. Josina Anderson reported a short time ago. Earl Thomas is reporting to the Seahawks today. So that holdout is ending.
Whoa.
And a short time ago, I had said that the Dallas Cowboys recently had increased their offer within the last week for Earl Thomas to a second-round draft pick. The Seahawks said no, and the Seahawks want more in return for Earl Thomas. There's a school of thought here. Follow this. The Seahawks play at Denver this week in their opener. They play at Chicago in week 2. And Seattle's home opener is week 3 at home against Dallas. Do you think that you want to trade Earl Thomas to the team that you're opening up at home against? I guess for the right price you will. But maybe you want to wait till Monday after week 3 and then trade Earl Thomas to the Dallas Cowboys at that point in time.
But am I right in understanding, Adam, that the Dallas Cowboys have bowed out?
I don't know if they've bowed out. Look, people can say they've bowed out. Maybe they bowed out today. Does that mean that they've bowed out next week or the week after or when they suffer another safety injury? I would not put too much credence or stock into that right now, Stugotz. We'll see how it all unfolds going forward.
Guillermo, can you look up for me the origins of the phrase bowing out? Like, why are we bowing while making our way out? Do we know? Does anyone know why we're saying that way?
Don't you bow at the end of a play or some sort of performance and you're on the way out?
Is that what bowing out is?
That's my best guess.
Schefter, you got a guess?
Bowing out means you bow and then you're out.
I know what it means, but where does it come from? Does it come from the theater?
Where does jumbo shrimp come from, Dan? I don't know.
Very fair question, man.
I mean, the sea.
Yes.
Anyway, so Adam Schefter with us on ESPN Radio. We'll talk about his book in a second. What is the most likely scenario for Le'Veon Bell?
Look, if he's not there today, why would he be there at all in week 1? And throughout the course of the spring, I've always maintained that this is a business decision for Le'Veon Bell, that he has to do what's best for him to get himself into March and into free agency to be healthy. The longer he stays away, I don't care about missing out on $855,000 a week when you're talking about a $60, $70 million contract that awaits you, the more he does to preserve his health, to prevent the number of touches that he would get, to prevent the wear and tear that inevitably would occur if he were on the Steelers roster. So last year, if you just look at history, he was there Monday and played 6 days later in the opener. This year, he wasn't there Monday. He's not there Tuesday. He's not there today. Why would you think he's coming in this week? I don't think he is. I'd be surprised if we see Le'Veon Bell play in week 1. And I think it becomes a week-to-week decision with him, analyzing when he feels ready to go in and rejoin his teammates. But he's been a franchise player the last 2 years with the franchise tag. The two sides have been unable to get that deal done. I think more and more in the NFL, we've seen the franchise tag be a divisive force between player and team. Players don't like it. And yes, the teams can use it, but they've used it as a weapon in many cases. And in this particular case, it hasn't helped the situation, and I don't think we see Le'Veon Bell in week 1.
Can you give us your opinion, not what you've reported, but can you give us your opinion on everything that happened with the Raiders and Mack?
You want my opinion?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's unfortunate that it came to that, that when you've got a player like that, that somehow you have to figure out a way to get it done. And my opinion is that John Gruden didn't like Khalil Mack enough to pay him that money, that the other teams were willing to pay him. He saw more value in the draft picks. And so he ultimately made a decision that he himself said he's going to be second guessed for from now until the cows come home. Whenever the cows come home. That could be the time
when are the cows
that
coming
bow out
home?
of the jumbo shrimp are drawn.
When are the cows coming home? When are they coming home?
Jumbo shrimp come home, yeah.
All right, very good. Let's talk about his book with him. Again, Adam Schefter. He's got a new memoir. It's The Man I Never Met. It's available now. You can also listen to the Adam Schefter podcast with new episodes weekly on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. It feels to me when I read some of the details of this story, Adam, that this is a bit of a love story. It's not just a memoir, that this is about your wife, this is about your family, this is about a man you never met.
Well, it's about all those things, Dan. I think ultimately it's a tribute to my wife's late husband, Joe Mayo, who lost his life on 9/11. It's a tribute to my wife for the strength and determination that she showed to get through that while she was raising her then 15-month-old son, Devin. I think it's designed to pay tribute to them. It's also obviously a story about grief, but it's about hope. And it's heartbreaking, it's heartwarming. And yes, there is a love story in there. There's a lot in there. And it stemmed from a piece that we ran on ESPN on the opening day of the 2016 NFL season on the 15th anniversary of 9/11. And that piece that ran, and if you haven't seen it, I'd invite you to go Google it. That piece that ran generated more reaction than anything I've ever done in 28 years in the business. And so this book is the 200-page version, much more personal, much more detailed, of the 6-minute piece that ran on the 15th anniversary of 9/11.
Was it difficult to get through for you, Adam? Was it difficult for you to get through this book? It had to be, right?
It was hard in many ways. It was challenging to put a book like that together. Dan's always been a great writer. He knows that there are certain pieces that you write that are more complex and more delicate and more sensitive than others. And there can be nothing that is more delicate and sensitive than putting together a memoir about your wife's late husband and the life that she led and how she tried to get on, and talking about Joe's parents, Paula and George Mayo, and how they tried to pick up the pieces. And look, again, there are 3,000 stories from that day, more, about how it impacted everybody. And we're no different. Their story is certainly unique. It's heartbreaking, but there are a lot of them from that day. This story just happens to be ours.
Where does this rank in terms of fulfilling work that you've done? Just in having completed it and being proud of what it is that you've completed.
Well, Dan, there's nothing that I've ever written. I was in the newspaper business for 16 years. I've written 4 other books besides this. There's nothing that I've ever been a part of from a writing standpoint that I feel like I've ever been more proud of, if that means anything. The fulfillment comes, in all honesty, I hope a lot of people read it. I hope a lot of people are inspired and touched and moved by it. But the truth of the matter is, all that mattered to me was how Paula and George Mayo viewed the book about their son, and how Shari viewed the book about her husband, and how our son viewed the book.